Welcome to Fractured Chaos.
I remember staring at my phone that night, watching those three little dots pulsate like a digital heartbeat. They appeared, disappeared, then appeared again for what felt like an eternity. It was our 2-year anniversary. I had reservations at Adelina's, her favorite restaurant, and a small velvet box burning a hole in my jacket pocket. Then the message came through. I need some space to think about us. Sorry to do this today of all days. That's it. No explanation. Just 12 words that shattered everything I thought I knew about our relationship. 12 words that made me realize I never actually knew her at all. What most people would have done is call, right? Try to understand. But something inside me just snapped. I typed back 6 words that would change both our lives forever. We're done. Don't contact me again. Then I blocked her number, her email, everything. Scorched earth. Because if there's one thing I've learned in my 32 years on this planet, it's that people who want to leave are already gone. At least that's what I told myself at the time. What I didn't know then was that April had just received news that would have explained everything. She'd been diagnosed with a rare heart condition that morning, the same condition that killed her mother at 35. The night after I ended things, I did what any rational, emotionally stable person would do. I went through our entire digital history together. Every text, every photo, every email, looking for signs I'd missed. That's when I found the drafts folder in the email account we sometimes shared for travel bookings. There were dozens of unsent messages to someone named Jay, messages that went back months. Jay, I can't keep lying to him. Jay, I'll tell him after our anniversary. Jay, I'm scared of how he'll react. My mind immediately jumped to the obvious conclusion. She'd been cheating. Every paranoid thought I'd ever pushed away came flooding back. The late nights at work, the girls' weekends, the hushed phone calls. I felt validated in my decision to end things. Relieved I'd beaten her to the punch. I did something I'm not proud of then. I replied to Jay from her drafts folder, pretending to be April. He knows everything. We need to talk. Meet me at our usual spot tomorrow at 8. Then I hit send. What I didn't realize was that Jay wasn't a lover. Jay was April's therapist, Dr. Janet Keller. And our usual spot wasn't some secret rendezvous point. It was April's regular Thursday therapy session. I showed up at Dr. Keller's office the next evening, parking across the street, waiting to catch April with this mysterious Jay. I'd convinced myself I would calmly confront them, get the closure I thought I needed. That's the story I told myself anyway. When April walked into that building alone, looking pale and drawn, I felt the first pang of doubt. Then, 30 minutes later, when an elderly woman with a cane hobbled out and got into a car with Dr. Keller vanity plates, that doubt expanded into something worse. The sickening realization that I'd made a terrible mistake. I spent the next 3 days trying to contact April, calling from different numbers, emailing from new accounts, even messaging her friends. Radio silence. It was like she'd vanished. Or rather, like I'd vanished her from my life so completely that there was no way back. On the 4th day, I received a package. Inside was the anniversary gift she'd planned to give me. A handcrafted watch with our initials engraved on the back and a note that simply read, "Time was all I asked for. Time was all I needed." What I didn't know then was that April had decided to undergo an experimental treatment. She'd wanted that month of space to see if she'd even survive it without burdening me with the possibility of becoming a widower at 32. People say curiosity killed the cat. In my case, it nearly killed me. I couldn't let it go. I became obsessed with finding out why she'd asked for space on that specific day. I started showing up at places she frequented, hoping to run into her accidentally. I created fake social media accounts to follow her. I even befriended her co-worker Jamie under false pretenses. That's how I learned about her heart condition. Jamie let it slip during happy hour, thinking I already knew. The shock must have shown on my face because she immediately stopped talking. But it was too late. I knew enough to piece together the rest. Enough to understand the magnitude of what I'd done. I decided then that I needed to make things right. I drafted a long, heartfelt apology explaining that I'd misunderstood everything, that I wanted to be there for her through whatever came next. I spent hours crafting each sentence, making sure it struck the right balance between remorse and hope. Just as I was about to send it, my phone dinged with a notification. April had tagged someone in a photo, a guy named Alex. They were holding hands in front of the Eiffel Tower. The caption read, "Sometimes the worst endings lead to the best beginnings. Molto nol." The timestamp showed it was posted just 3 minutes ago. While I'd been pouring my heart into an apology, she'd been moving on 4,000 miles away. They say the brain processes heartbreak the same way it processes physical pain. I can confirm that's true. For weeks, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I'd ruined something beautiful because of my own insecurities and impulsive reaction. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd broken up with her because I couldn't handle the possibility of her leaving me, and in doing so, guaranteed exactly that outcome. 2 months after our non-anniversary, I received a text from an unknown number. "Butterfly effect. One wing beat here causes hurricanes there. Your storm is coming B." I nearly drove off the road when I read it. No one called me B except April. But this wasn't her number. I tried calling back, disconnected. I tried tracing it, untraceable. For days afterward, I jumped every time my phone vibrated. I installed security cameras at my apartment. I started checking my car before getting in. What I didn't know was that the text wasn't a threat. It was a clue. April and I had watched a documentary about the butterfly effect on our first date. There was a hurricane in it named Beatrice, B for short. The eye of the hurricane had passed over a small island called St. Michael, the place we'd always talked about visiting together. On a whim, or perhaps something deeper than a whim, I booked a flight there. I told myself it was to get away, clear my head. But deep down, I knew I was hoping for something I couldn't articulate. When I arrived, the island was preparing for their annual butterfly release, a tradition to honor loved ones who had passed away. As I wandered through the town square, a familiar laugh caught my attention. A laugh I'd know anywhere. There she was, setting up for the ceremony, looking healthier than I'd seen her in months. No Alex in sight, just April, surrounded by paper butterflies and smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. Our eyes met across the square. Time seemed to stop. Then she did the last thing I expected. She waved me over. "Oh, you figured it out," she said. Not a question, but a statement. "The butterfly effect," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Small actions, big consequences," she nodded. "Like breaking up with someone instead of just talking to them." I waited for the anger, the accusations. Instead, she handed me a paper butterfly. "My treatment worked," she said simply. "The experimental trial. I'm in remission. That's what the doctors think anyway." I felt dizzy with relief, confusion, hope. "The guy? Alex?" "My cousin," she laughed. "He came with me for the first round of treatment in Paris. I posted that to hurt you, if I'm being honest. Not my finest moment. I didn't know what to say. After everything I'd done, after how badly I misjudged her, she was standing in front of me, offering, what? Forgiveness? A second chance. "Why did you lead me here?" I finally asked. "Why not just tell me?" She looked at me for a long moment. "Because I needed to know if you'd figure it out. If you really knew me at all." And that's when she showed me the butterfly tattoo on her wrist. Fresh, still healing. Underneath it, in tiny script, B. "It wasn't about space from you," she said quietly. "It was about making space for what might happen, for what I might become, with or without a functioning heart." We sat on the beach that night, watching the stars, saying all the things we should have said months ago. I told her how sorry I was, how I'd let my fear of abandonment cloud my judgment. She told me about her diagnosis, her treatment, her terror of putting me through what her father went through with her mother. "So what happens now?" I asked as the tide crept closer. She took my hand, turned it palm up, and placed something small and cold in it. When I looked down, I saw a key. "That depends," she said. "This is the key to my new place, Back home, no pressure, no expectations, just possibility. I close my fingers around it, feeling its weight, literal and metaphorical. I can't promise I won't get sick again, she continued. The treatment isn't a guarantee. And I can't promise I won't need space sometimes. That's just how I process. I nodded, understanding for perhaps the first time what love actually means. Not possession, not control, but acceptance, patience, trust. And I can't promise I won't overreact sometimes, I said, or that I won't get scared. But I can promise I'll talk to you before I decide what you're thinking. She laughed at that, a genuine, full-bodied laugh that made me realize how much I'd missed that sound. As we walked back to the village, I realized something both terrifying and exhilarating. We were starting over, but with all our cards on the table this time. All our weaknesses exposed. No more perfect anniversary dinners and hidden diagnoses. No more hasty conclusions and blocked numbers. Just two flawed people, causing small hurricanes in each other's lives, but weathering them together. And maybe that's all anyone can really ask for. It's been a year since St. Michel. April's still in remission. We're taking things slow, separate apartments, but having dinner together most nights. We've each been to therapy, individually and together. We're learning to communicate better, to give each other the space to be human without assuming the worst. Last week was our would-be 3-year anniversary. Instead of making grand gestures or expensive reservations, we ordered takeout and watched that same butterfly documentary where it all began. As the credits rolled, I pulled out my phone and showed her a text I'd drafted but hadn't sent. I might need some space this weekend to work through some things. Can we talk about it? She smiled, understanding what I was trying to say. Then she took my phone, hit send, and handed it back. My phone dinged a moment later with her reply. Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And after everything we've been through, that feels like the biggest revelation of all. That love isn't about grand gestures or dramatic breakups or chasing someone across oceans. Sometimes it's just about sending a text. And sometimes it's about how you respond to the one you receive.